This tutorial is for people who have no idea what's in a computer and might even be scared to open it. But it's actually really simple. We'll break it down in a way anyone can understand. Think about those children's block puzzles where you have like the square and the circle and you try to put them in the right hole. It can be that easy. So don't worry, you'll be able to understand. Hopefully this will help you, so if you're ever in a conversation about computers, you have some idea what people are talking about and you're not just standing there with a blank stare nodding. So basically, computers have 5 parts, and all those parts go onto a thing called the motherboard. You can think of the motherboard as like the thing you put the blocks into. That's the motherboard back there, and it helps the parts communicate with each other. All those little bits on there, those are pieces of the motherboard. You don't have to worry about those at all. They're not like the main thing. Every piece is important, but they're all just on one motherboard piece. A lot of people who know quite a bit about computers have no idea what any of those little bits are doing, but they're there on the motherboard, all comes as one thing. The first piece of the computer is the CPU, or computer processing unit. That'll probably be under a big hunk of metal and a fan because it does all your processing. It uses a lot of electricity and all the heat goes through there. So to get rid of the heat, they put a big piece of metal on it, works like a radiator, and then the fan blows air, so the heat goes into the big metal, then the air travels over it, and that helps keep your computer cool. If you wanted to take a look at it, you just unscrew it, then you pull this off, and then there's like some goop stuff on there, and that is called thermal paste. That helps the heat transfer to the metal. It removes any air gaps, makes the heat move in there, and then it'll be like little silver square kind of a piece. That's what your CPU is. Piece number 2, this big one here, is the graphics processing unit, GPU, also called graphics card. And this would be the second most important piece for people who are gamers or like people doing video processing. But for a lot of computers, it's not even in there at all. All the video processing can be handled with integrated graphics onto the CPU, but if you're trying to do something complex like to display a pretty game, render some videos or something like that, this piece becomes incredibly important and the CPU couldn't handle it by itself. So it's either the second most important or not in there at all, depending on what you're doing. You got your storage. This will come either in the form of a SSD or a HDD. This is a SSD here. They're a little bit newer and a little bit better than the HDDs, but they're still putting HDDs in the new computers in 2022. So you might have one of those. The HDD is like a little disk that writes all the information onto a disk. The SSD puts the information onto this one. That's how many gigabytes of storage that you can put on your computer. Then right next to it over here, we have 2 sticks of what is called RAM. There's usually 4 RAM slots. A lot of those computers will have 1 for the basic computers, or even some of the higher end pre-builts will only come with 2. You don't need a lot of RAM in your computer. That's random access memory. It is like your computer's short-term memory. So you can think of like, not like saving a picture, that would go on your long-term memory there. The short-term memory is for like how many tabs you have open in Chrome. And you'll see in my computer, I only have 2. So you really don't need 4. I can open hundreds of tabs without my computer crashing with 2 of them in there. Most people will be just fine with 1. You don't need all 4. And the last piece doesn't connect to the motherboard in the same way as the other ones. It has all the plugs going to it because it's the power supply. That's where your cord will come in from the wall, go into your power supply, and then that powers your computer. Pretty simple. So we'll go over all of them again with a quick review. Got your computer processing unit, CPU, underneath the fan. Then you got your GPU, or video card, or a graphics card. Maybe it's in there, maybe it's not, depends on what you're doing with your computer. You got your storage via SSD or HDD, and then you got your RAM. And the last one, power supply. So hopefully that helps. You know, your 5 pieces in your computer, maybe a little bit simpler than you think. And now you'll understand what people are talking about, I hope. Good on you for looking up a quick tutorial. Shout out to Daniello.